Hi, everyone, and welcome to our annual Synergy conference. Today's session focuses on preparing a tax return for electronic filing. In this course, we will file a tax return using Autofill My Return from the CRA and tax data download from Revenue Quebec. We will then submit an electronic e-signature to our clients on the Form T183 and TP1000. Once we receive the signed documents, we will e-file the T1 return in DTMax. And I will then show you how to produce and e-file an amended return in DTMax T1. So without further ado, let's dive into DTMax T1. So we're currently on the splash screen in DTMax T1. We're simply going to click on Start in order to launch the program. Once you click on Start, it's going to bring you in the first screen in DTMax T1, which is the client list. Before you start producing tax returns in DTMax, it is important to complete the preferences. Today, we will complete the preferences that will allow us to transmit returns electronically. So in order for us to complete the e-file setup, we're simply going to click on the e-file menu and then select the first section, which is e-file setup. In the e-file setup screen, you must complete the first tab for the federal T1 transmission. Here, you must enter your CRA password. If you're producing Quebec returns, you should also complete the second tab, which is Quebec TP1. On the second tab, you must enter your net file number and your web access code. Once you're done completing the e-file setup, you could simply click on Save, and that information will be stored permanently in your DTMax T1 database. Now that we completed the e-file setup, we can start by producing a tax return for one of our clients. In order for us to produce the tax return, we're going to use some of the electronic services that are offered by Revenue Quebec and Revenue Canada. Autofill My Return and tax data download will allow us to pre-field certain sections in our client's tax return or in our client's data entry screen. With Autofill My Return and tax data download, you could import slips that are in the government's portal into your DTMax software, and that will allow you to complete the production return of your clients. That service is available in DTMax T1 as well as DTMax T2. The advantages of using tax data download and autofill my return is that you no longer have to wait till your client shows up at your office so that they can hand you over the slips and the form so that you could produce your tax return. Again, with tax data download and autofill my return, you could easily download the slips from the government's website into your client's data entry screen. In order for you to use this service, you will need a valid authorization to represent the client with online access. You should also have the exact time set up on your computer based on your time zone. And we recommend that you verify that your default web browser is up to date. So for this example today, we're going to use Microsoft Edge. Note that you could also use Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox. In order to download the slips from the CRA, in DTMax you have two methods. The first method will allow you to download the slips and the forms for a single family. So for the first method, if you have a family head, a spouse, and dependents, you will be able to download all of their tax slips from the CRA's website into your DTMax software. In order to use this service, you will need to go in the data entry screen of your client's file. And once you're in the data entry screen, you must use the right-hand side menu in order to select T-Slip from CRA. So again, with this option, you're able to download all of the slips of a single family into the data entry screen. The second option will allow you to download the slips for multiple families. In order to use the second method, you need to go to the client list in DTMax T1. And once you're on the client list, you could select up to 10 clients in order to download their slips from the CRA's portal. In order for you to select the clients, you just have to hold the control key with your keyboard and then click on the names of the clients on the client list. After selecting the names, you could simply click on the CRA Autofill My Return icon that's available on the client list. So you can use this icon here, or you could go to the e-file menu and select the option CRA Autofill My Return. On the new window, the system will simply show you the names of the clients that were selected on the client list, and it will also show you their SIN numbers. You simply need to click on Retrieve Information, and that will bring you to the CRA's website. So once you click on Retrieve Information, it's going to use your default web browser so that you could log in or sign in on the CRA's website. So once you're on the Tax Information Web Service webpage, you could simply scroll down and choose your login method. So you could log in or sign in using a partner, or you could simply sign in using your CRA username and your CRA password. If you don't have a user ID or a password, on the login page, you do have the option to register. So if you don't have a username and a password, you could actually register on the CRA's login page. So here you do have a hyperlink that will allow you to create a new user. Once you click on login, it will show you all of the SIN numbers of the clients that were selected in DTMax. Just a quick reminder, you cannot select more than 10 SIN numbers. Once you click on Next, it will simply import all of the client's tax information or tax slips into the DTMax software. So as you can see here, the operation was completed successfully. So now in order for us to view the slips that were downloaded from the government's website, we could simply go in our client's data entry screen, use the right-hand side display in order to select T-slip from CRA. Once you click on T-slip from CRA, you will have the option to download the slips that were retrieved from the CRA's website. So on this new window, you simply need to select the second option in order to import the slips in DTMax. So all of the slips will be listed on the right-hand side menu in your client's data entry screen. So as you can see here, we have all of the slips that were downloaded from the CRA's website into our DTMax software. And as you can see, all the information, all the slips are currently on the right-hand side menu in our client's data entry screen. We will need to import the data in the production return in order for us to complete the client's tax return and e-file the return to the government. So when you're e-filing a return in DTMax, you're actually filing the production return. So in order for us to import the data into the production return, we're simply going to hold the Control and the Shift key on our keyboard and then select the first keyword group. So in my case, it's T4. And when you're going to click on the first keyword group, you're going to see that all of the secondary keywords will be highlighted in yellow. Then still holding the Control and the Shift key, you could select another keyword that's further down at the bottom of the screen. So here we're just going to select tuition and education. And now you could see that several keywords in our data entry screen are now highlighted in yellow. Now, in order to import the data into the production return, we're going to right-click with our mouse in the data entry screen and select the option Copy to the left-hand side. So this is the process in order to import the slips from the CRA's website into the DTMax software. So we just completed a tax return using autofill my return from the CRA. If you wish to use tax data download from Revenu Quebec, you need to have a valid authorization to represent the client, or you could use your client's 8-digit download code. In DTMax, in order to use tax data download from Revenu Quebec, you must go in the client's data entry screen and use the right-hand side menu in order to select T-slip from Revenu Quebec. Once you click on T slips from Revenue Quebec, it's going to populate a new window where you're able to see your client's SIN number. And here we tell you that you could enter your client's 8-digit download code in order to retrieve their RL slip from the portal and to import the information in DT Max. To import. And here we tell you that you can enter your client's 8-digit download code in order to retrieve the slips from the Revenue Quebec's website. On the Revenue Quebec's website, there is an article that explains to you how to retrieve the 8-digit download code. Also keep in mind that if you don't have the RQ download code, you could also use a valid authorization or a power of attorney in order to download the slips or in order to use tax data download. So if you have a valid authorization, you could just simply leave this field blank and click on Retrieve Information. That will automatically import all of the slips in your client's right-hand side menu in the data entry screen. So for this example, I'm just going to choose a client where their slips were previously downloaded from the government's website. So here I'm going to use the right-hand side menu and select T slips from Revenue Quebec. And on this window, I'm going to select the second option in order to retrieve the data that was previously downloaded. So again, here we could see the slips on the right-hand side menu in our data entry screen. And just a quick note in regards to tax data download, if you already download the slips from the CRA, you might not need to download or copy the entire slips from Revenue Quebec. You may be missing only certain fields or certain keywords or boxes. So what we recommend is that you simply import the information manually on the production return. So for example, if you already download the T4 from Revenue Canada, you may need to complete certain fields for the RL slip. Therefore, you could simply go to the production side in the data entry screen and enter the amounts manually. If it's for a slip that's only available on the Revenue Quebec's portal. So here we have the RL24 and we wish to import the information in the production return. We could simply click on the main keyword group and press on F5 with our keyboard. And that will highlight all of the secondary keyword of that group. Once all of the keywords are highlighted in yellow, then we could simply right-click with our mouse in DT Max and use the option Copy to Left-Hand Side. So as you can see here, we were able to import the data of the RL24 slip into our production return. If you're using this service at the beginning of the tax season, just keep in mind that new slips may be added during the season in the government's portal. In DT Max, you do have an option in order to update. Basically, this option will allow you to retrieve any new slips that were added to the government's portal into your DT Max software. So if you need to update the slips that were previously downloaded from the government's website, you just need to use the right-hand side menu And if we select T-slips from Revenue Quebec, for example, we do have the option here to update from Revenue Quebec. So by selecting this option here, I'm able to download any new slips that were added on the government's website into the DTMax software. So this is the process in order to download the slips from Revenue Canada and from Revenue Quebec. And again, by using this feature, you're able to complete the production return. Once the return is completed, we strongly suggest that you verify if there's any errors or warning messages. So in the data entry screen of your client's production return, you could simply click on this icon in order to view if there's any errors or warning messages. Before you e-file the return, you must correct all the errors in red and in blue. So the errors in red will prevent the calculation of the tax return. So these errors will now allow you to view or generate the return in DTMax. The errors in blue will prevent the filing of the return. So if you have errors in blue, you will not be able to transmit the return electronically using e-file. So again, really important here to correct messages that are in red and in blue in order to generate and e-file the return in DTMax. In order to generate the tax return, you could simply click on the third tab in DTMax, which is the tax return tab. Or you could go through the Tools menu and select Recalculate Current Client. Once you select Tools, Recalculate Current Client, it's going to bring you to the third screen in DTMax, which is the tax return screen. So we're now in the third screen in DTMax T1, which is the tax return screen. And before we e-file or return to the government, we just need to make sure that our client is eligible for e-filing. On the tax return screen, you must use the Notes and Diagnostic form in order to see if you could submit the return using e-file. If your client's return is not eligible for e-filing, on the Notes and Diagnostic page, you will be able to know why. So the system will tell you why you cannot e-file your client's return electronically. So for this demonstration, we could see that we could e-file our client's federal and Quebec return using e-file. But before we transmit the return, we must submit the T183 and the TP1000 for an e-signature to our client. So the T183 and the TP1000 will allow us to e-file the return on behalf of our client. DTMax has a direct integration with Onvio and Onvio Client Center, where we could submit those forms to our clients, and our clients will be able to sign these forms using an e-signature. In order to send these forms to our client, we're simply going to click on this icon, which is Request e-signature. And once you click on the icon, you will be able to check the boxes for the form T183, and the Quebec equivalent is TP1000. Then we're going to click on Send Update in order to submit the forms to our client in Onvio Client Center. So here we can see that the T183 was submitted successfully, and now we have the confirmation that the TP1000 was also submitted successfully. So our client just received a notification by email asking them to simply log in to Onvio Client Center in order to complete the signatures on the forms. So here I'm just going to show you what the process looks like for the client. So again, once the client receives a notification to log in to Onvio Client Center, they will be able to click on the hyperlink, and that will bring them to the splash screen of onvio.ca, where they're able to enter their username and password. Once they click on sign in, they will be able to view the forms to sign on the task tab. So as you can see here in Onvio Client Center, there's two tabs. The first one is task, where they're able to view the e-signature request that was sent from the accountant. And the second tab is the documents tab. So any documents that were shared the client will be able to view them in the document area. So here, I'm just going to click on Start for the first request, and our client will need to agree and read the terms in order to send or complete the e-signature on the T183. Once they click on Review Document, they will be able to confirm their signature. So here, they have the option to choose one of the signature styles that are offered by Onvio, or they could draw their signature, or they could upload a picture of their signature in Onvio Client Center. So for this example, I'm just going to choose one of the signature styles, and I'm going to click on Next in order to apply the signature on the document. So again, that's the process for the client in order to sign the T183 that was sent from DTMax into Onvio Client Center. Once the client clicks on Submit and Continue, it will then send a notification to the accounting firm to let them know that the document was signed by the client. So I'm just going to continue with the second request. So again, we're going to click on Start. And here we have the form TP1000, which is the Quebec equivalent. So again, the client will need to read and agree to the terms in order to apply a signature on the document. And as you could see here at the bottom, we do have the signature and the date added to the TP1000. And here we're going to click on Submit in order to confirm that we completed the two tasks that were sent by the accounting firm. Okay, so as you can see, the two requests are now completed. So now we can go back to our DTMax software. So what the accountant must do once they got the confirmation that the documents were signed by the client is that they simply need to go back to the Request e-signature screen and click on Send Update. By clicking on Send Update, it will simply import the signed documents in DTMax T1. So the status will change for sign, and you will be able to view the signed document, the PDF, in DTMax. This will also add a confirmation in the data entry screen. So if you go to your client's data entry screen, you will see the keyword e-signature, or you will have a confirmation that the document was signed and dated electronically. And I also have a confirmation on the keyword progress for the T183 and the TP1000. So as you can see here, the form was received. So this is the process in order to send a e-signature request to our client using DTMax T1. Now that we have the confirmation that we could e-file the returns on behalf of our client, we could go to the client list. And before we e-file, I just want to show you that with this icon here, customize the client list, you can add this column in order to view the status of your client's files. With this column, I'm able to see if the file is actually ready for e-file. If the client's file is not ready for e-file, I strongly suggest that you go back to the tax return tab and view the form notes and diagnostics. So now in order to e-file the return, we're going to click on the e-file menu and select the second option in order to transmit the return. So again, once you go to e-file, select the second option to transmit the return. And here you have the option to submit the current client, which is the client highlighted in blue, or you could transfer an entire family. And you also have the option here to transmit the return of all of the clients that are marked ready for e-file. On the right-hand side, you need to specify the jurisdiction. So here for our client, we will submit the federal and the provincial return. So once I click on continue, it will simply e-file the return to the government. Once you e-file the return to the government, you will be able to view the acknowledgement report in DTMax by going to the e-file menu and by selecting the third option, which is view and print e-file reports. So again, if you go to e-file and you click on the third option, you're able to view the acknowledgement report, which will show you if the client's return was accepted or if the return was rejected. So here you could just click on the report and then select View Print Reports. That same information is available in the client's data entry screen. So here we could see that the tax return was e-filed to the government and was accepted by the government. So if we go inside the data entry screen, we will see the keyword progress. And you will also see the keyword e-file result. If the file was rejected by the government, so if the file was denied or rejected by the government, so just to show you, if I go to the client's data entry screen, here we could see that there's an e-file error, and once we go inside the client's data entry screen, we will see the keyword e-file result. as well as the error code that's preventing us from e-filing the return. Once you make the correction on the data entry screen, you must delete this keyword, go back to the client list, and transmit the return again to the government. So that's the process in order to e-file a return electronically. Now, if you want to add or make any changes to the tax return that was e-filed to the government and that was already accepted by the government, you could simply go inside the client's data entry screen, add your changes, and you will be able in DTMax T1 to submit an amended return electronically to the government. We recommend that you wait until you receive the notice of assessment before producing an amended return. In DTMax, in order to produce an amended return, we're going to go inside our client's data entry screen, and we're going to copy the production return into a plan before we make the changes in the client's production return. By copying the production return into a plan, it will allow us to have a copy of the return that was previously submitted to the government. In order to create a plan in DTMax T1, you need to use the drop-down menu of the production and select a blank plan. So for this example, I'm going to choose Plan A. And on the new window, we're going to select the option Copy from Production. Okay, so here we're going to click on Copy from Production and then click OK. So now that we're on Plan A, we're going to name our plan by adding the keyword Plan Title. Okay, so here we have the keyword Plan Title, and we're going to call this plan Return Filed On, and then we're simply going to add the date. So again, this will allow us to keep a copy of the return that was previously transferred or e-filed to the government. Now that we have our plan, we could go back to the production return and add any changes so that we could then submit or e-file the amended return. So all of the changes will need to be added directly on the data entry screen. If you get a message saying that this return was already e-filed, do you wish to accept or make changes? You will need to click on Yes. And once you're done adding all of the changes on the data entry screen, we strongly suggest that you do Tools, Recalculate Current Client. So I'm going to go back to the data entry screen, and in order for us to e-file an amended return, you need to go inside the keyword group e-file, and once you extend the keyword group e-file, you will need to select Yes in order to submit or refile a federal return. So with this option, you will be able to transmit an amended return electronically to the Revenue Canada agency. And if your client is in Quebec, you also have the option to transmit or refile a Quebec return. For Quebec, you need to add details to your adjustment. So here you could just type in the details on the field in the data entry screen. And if you want to attach a file in order to support your adjustment, you could simply double click on this field here in order to select a file that is saved on your computer. So it could be a PDF document or it could be an image. And again, you could simply import the document in the keyword called QUE refile file. Once you're done completing the keywords, again, we recommend that you do tools recalculate. And then you could simply go back to the client list, go to the e-file menu, and then select the option transmit and receive. So with this option here, you will be able to transmit an amended return to the Revenue Canada and Revenue Quebec's agency. So this concludes the presentation about the preparation of a tax return for the electronic filing. So again, in this session, we saw how to complete a tax return using autofill my return from the CRA and tax data download from Revenue Quebec. We submitted an electronic signature to our clients using Onvio Client Center, and our clients were able to sign the T183 and the TP1000 electronically. Then we e-filed the return in DTMax T1, and I also showed you how to produce and e-file an amended return. So this concludes today's presentation, and enjoy the rest of your Synergy conference. Take care, everyone.